Good evening. It's Thursday, January 5th, and this is the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your fill-in host, Rob Dew. Alex is going to be in later in the show interviewing. It's an amazing interview with Edward T. Haslam, who wrote Dr. Mary's Monkey. This is a fascinating book, and let me tell you, it goes deep. It crosses JFK assassination with the whole cancer virus, the SV40 virus in the monkeys that was injected into people through vaccines. I mean, it's huge. This is a page turner. I'm just going to read this little back of the book. This is coming up. When New Orleans native Ed Haslam began his modest investigation into the curious life and shocking death of the brilliant Tulane medical professor, Dr. Mary Sherman, he couldn't have imagined that his inquiry would connect some of the city's most prominent citizens to lone nut Lee Harvey Oswald, to the mafia, and to forces high inside the U.S. government. Nor that these new discoveries would ultimately change our understanding of a fateful November day in Dallas, but they have. So you want to stay tuned for that. It's going to be a great interview. We recorded it earlier today. Alex told you guys earlier on the radio about his weightlifting incident. That's kind of left him really struggling to get deep breaths, and by the end of the day, he really is tired. So we're going to pick up the slack. I think Paul Joseph Watson's going to do the news tomorrow night, and you got me tonight, so let's get on with the news. And once again, TSA and body scanners will lead it off. Radiation doctor says TSA naked body scanners can cause cancer, which we know this. We've been telling the TSA and their minions like this for many times, and they don't want to listen. No matter how many times the TSA claims the machines are safe and pose no threat to travelers or personnel, naked body scanners that emit ionizing radiation are indeed a very serious health threat. And then you got Dr. Edward Dewar, head of radiology at Florida Medical Center, agrees, having recently come forward to explain that naked body scanners can cause cancer, particularly to those people over 65 and in women who are said to be genetically prone to developing breast cancer. And TSA continues to insist that ionizing radiation emitted from its backscatter X-ray naked body scanner is minimal, and that individuals are exposed to far more background radiation every single day just living their normal lives. But the agency has not provided any solid proof to this claim, and many experts say the radiation emitted is concentrated on the skin and therefore harmful, because usually what's going on is you're getting that radiation and it's affecting your whole body, whereas these millimeter scanners and these X-ray scanners go right at the skin and they sit right at that level, and that's where they're causing the harm. It goes on. This claim is highly misleading because background radiation on airplanes, for instance, is absorbed by the whole body, whereas during the naked body scan, it is focused directly on the skin and its underlying tissue. Furthermore, EPIC, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, has repeatedly challenged the constitutionality of naked body scanners in the first place and is currently pressing a lawsuit to stop the entire program, which they say is unlawful and invasive. And we know that. And then we look at the people who are running these naked body scanners and supposedly concerned about our security. We go to this next story. TSA behavioral detection officer sentenced for helping drug dealers through security. Agents ensured marijuana traffickers avoided full body scanners. And boy, this article really goes into a lot of stuff. Minetta Walker was arrested last March by federal agents, and investigators discovered that Walker had helped traffickers move large amounts of cash through the airport, escorting them through security lines, directing them away from the naked body scanners and pat-down security lines, and ensuring their luggage bypassed the screening areas. Walker also aided at least one suspect, narcotics trafficker, to fly under a false identity and warned at least one other suspect that police officers were conducting undercover surveillance on him. And this is where it gets really interesting. It was revealed on occasion Walker waited with suspected drug carriers at the aircraft departure gate, ensuring they were able to avoid the random secondary screening, which I've seen many times. And it's really a pain in the butt because you're about to get on the plane, you have all your stuff, and they go, "Sir, please come over here. We want to touch you and we want to check your drink." And I've actually seen people in this process where one person gets their drink tested and then other people will line up to get their drinks tested like it's a big fun thing. It's totally disgusting. Back to that quote. She did this while off duty but still wearing her TSA uniform. And, we have a litany. There's a great article that Steve Watson wrote for PrisonPlanet.com in February of last year. So this article is almost a year old. It's titled, Epidemic of TSA Criminality. More agents caught stealing cash from luggage, another arrested for assault. And it goes through a litany of different crimes that they've engaged in. And it's all, sourced. You go to the end of this article, get a shot of this right here. 36 different sources. Get a document cam of this. He's got 36 sources from this article. It goes on and on. There's the 36 of them from Prison Planet, but, he's got LA Times. He's got Atlantic Journal-Constitution. It's all in here. So go read this article. This is the kind of activity that the TSA engages in it's becoming a regular basis. So I would really look out for that. But anyway, they get busted for, she gets busted for helping them bring drugs in. We got a clip of this. It talks a little bit about Miss Walker, and let's go to that clip now.
Agent pleaded guilty to conspiracy to defraud the United States for using her unique role as a behavior detection officer to escort a local drug dealer as he carried a large amount of cash through security at Buffalo Niagara International Airport. She also alerted other drug suspects that they were under surveillance.
Yeah, and so it gets better than that. There's then a government official who helped another guy get a false birth certificate. Then I guess she also helped on, and then they eventually arrested her. So let's go ahead and go to that clip.
3 other people have been arrested in this same investigation, 2 for dealing drugs and a 3rd for helping one of them create a false birth certificate. Regina McCullen had worked in the clerk's office at City Hall and was recently sentenced to 2 years probation after admitting she helped a drug dealer create a fake birth certificate that he used to travel between Buffalo and Phoenix.
And if you think that's bad, TSA is not just going to be sitting at the airports. They're going to be everywhere. We covered earlier in the year, or actually last year, that they had set up Viper checkpoints in Tennessee, and it was unannounced. And then it came out that they had done over 900 of these. Here's another one. DHS officers armed with semi-automatics set up unannounced ID checkpoint. And this is at a Florida Social Security office. And they weren't informed of the drill. And Homeland Security officials refused to talk to the media. And here's a quote here. A separate Homeland Security Viper recently received an expansion in funding from Congress that will see its 2011 figure of around 9,300 checkpoints. Oh, I'm sorry, I said 900. It's actually 9,300. Increased with an addition of 12 new Viper teams that will be used to carry out security checks at bus depots, train stations, ferries, ports, and highways. So I told you 900 checkpoints, and it's actually 9,300. It's totally crazy. These people are going to be feeling you up everywhere you go, wanting to know what you're doing, what you're engaged in. And then here we have an article written last year, almost a year ago today, that talks a detail of them going into people's bags, taking money, large amounts of cash, not just $100, but $40,000 in one case, how they were planning stuff on people, and then how a lot of them are here's one here. The guy started punching another person when one of these TSA workers started punching another person when he took his parking space. There's another one at LAX who flipped out and began screaming, I am God, I'm in charge. And there's a TSA employee based in Atlanta that tried to kill himself after allegedly abducting a woman and sexually assaulting her. There's another TSA worker in Boston, Logan, who was charged with multiple sex crimes targeting an underage girl. I mean, it goes on and on. These are not the people that you want in charge of your security, yet this is what we get. We get more of this. And we're going to go to that Tennessee checkpoint video now, and you can see how they're going after the citizens, trying to get them to spy on each other. It's really great. It's all for America. Let's go to that clip
Tuesday,
now.
Tennessee was the first to do this simultaneously at 5 weigh stations and 2 bus stations statewide. They're recruiting truck drivers like Rudy Gonzalez into the First Observer Highway Security Program to say something if they see something.
Not only truck drivers, but cars, everybody should be aware of what's going on the road.
It's all meant to urge every driver to call authorities if they see something suspicious.
Especially like a box in the road.
Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security.
We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well-funded.
The airport adventures, which they now admit are going nationwide with the Viper teams at bus stops, train stops, the streets, shopping malls, random vans, sending you through body scanners, biometrically scanning 360 your naked body.
Now, TSA agents are on the interstates fighting terrorism with visible intermodal prevention and response, or Viper operations. The Tennessee Highway Patrol is checking trucks with drug and bomb-sniffing dogs during random inspections.
The bottom line is this: if you see something suspicious, say something about it.
If you see something, say something. If you see something, say something. Spy on your neighbor. You are a slave. You are a slave. It's incredible what goes on in this country on a daily basis as our economy is going down the tubes and the banks are looting everything, and we got these nitpicking little fake security guards walking around, which brings me up to a point, back to this TSA behavioral detection officer sentenced. It said in the article, and actually in that news piece that we didn't put in, the judge said, "We took the same oath and you violated yours." I don't know. I don't think TSA officers do take an oath. I believe that is incorrect. The judge, just another case of, people not knowing really what goes on in their world. So there you go. Continuing with the welfare state, you're going to have the security guards at your Social Security center picking up food stamps, making sure you spend it on the right kinds of junk food. The EU is going to plan to slap a VAT tax, which is a value-added tax on food. And they raised the VAT tax on everything but food and children's clothes by 20% last year. And now they want to include food and children's clothes. And these plans would add up to 20% of the costs of children's clothes and put an extra tax on books and newspapers, and would be a strike for ignorance over education. And they want to do this in order to harmonize the sales tax across Europe. The only thing they don't want to harmonize is the banks stealing money from you and total corruption and technocrats. They don't want to harmonize you from that, but they want to take more of your money. And now we go to this. Commuters spend a fifth of their wages on rail fares as costs soar by up to 11%. This is from Mail Online. And commuters faced with an inflation-busting 11% hike in prices will take little comfort from figures released today that show people are spending up to a fifth of their wages just to get to work. Wow. So, as the economy gets worse, the global economy, prices are going to rise, you're going to get less service, and you're going to get more TSA-type officials touching your genitals. Let's move on to Ron Paul and the election that was, or the caucus, I guess, that was stolen from him. We have a clip here, and we found this today. One of our listeners sent this in to us, and has Linda Wertheimer from NPR interviewing Edith Peffer, and she's the Republican chair of Clinton County. And this is what she had to say about all the weird happenings that went on that night. Let's go to that clip.
I had received a phone call. This is Edith. I had received a phone call about 11:20 from the Romney worker who had been working in our county, and he said he needed the count. And I said, well, why do you need the count for 2-2? And he said, well, they don't have it in Des Moines. And I said, but I know they were called in. Huh? And he said, well, I think that there was a computer glitch, that the computers went down. And I said, oh, okay. And so I gave him the requested numbers.
And so did your own precinct, did Clinton County come out the way you thought it would?
I really thought that Ron Paul was going to do a little better than he did tonight.
So as you can see, she thought Ron Paul was going to win. Yet it didn't turn out that way. Mitt Romney took that county, I think, by about a little over 200 votes. And she didn't see it that way. But when the Romney people called and got the numbers, everything seemed to work out fine. We got another article from the Red Dirt Report. Cockeyed Hawkeyes. Romney wins in Paul-friendly super caucus. Here's a different caucus in a different county. Let's see. It was